truck this morning. I'm out here in Stream, West Texas. The mountains aren't that, the inclines aren't that great, but this wind is just whipping through here. I don't know if you guys can tell. It is really hitting me, pushing me off the side of the road here. Nothing to see here. Some mountains out in the background. It's open country. Beautiful, beautiful morning. And the sunrise over my shoulder here this morning. I didn't catch it. Hopefully I edit this right and you see the first part first, but I didn't catch the sunrise this morning because there's always that one guy that has no sense of where he's at in the world and probably doesn't care and just ruins everything for everybody. And that guy showed up again this morning. After I made my coffee, it was getting light. I'd been up for about an hour looking at the stars, the moon, the scenery. It was close to a full moon, so you could just see everything. At the same time, there's probably 10 other people who were up kind of milling around. Everybody was being nice and quiet. I was tiptoeing around making my coffee, making sure that I didn't disturb anybody else in the morning. So just about the time the sun was just gonna peek over those mountains, you hear this news radio program. I mean, and it's blasting, and everybody in the that was camping out there, it was funny, we all kind of turned in unison to look at this. I'll call him a jackass. He's a jackass. He was camping out in his crappy old van, but apparently he was listening to MSNBC, and he rolled down the window because he wanted everybody else to hear. And I'm not kidding here. MSNBC finally got their evidence. They were gonna prove that they were gonna put Trump in jail this time. I guess he thought that was important enough to blast it, so everybody else could hear. But I even heard one guy across the way say, "Come on, man!" But it just ruined the moment. It was just beautiful, quiet, awesome, sunrise. And that one guy. And then all of a sudden, somebody else said, "Well, if he's making noise, I'm going to crank up my generator." So you had this guy cranking MSNBC, and the other guy had a generator blasting us all out. And I just said, "You know what? I'm out of here." But there's always that one guy. Anyway, hopefully MSNBC got their evidence this time. Being sarcastic. So I'm traveling down now. That was right outside of Carlsbad. And I'm traveling over to El Paso. This is a route I take occasionally. There's lots, when you're in New Mexico, there's lots of government land that you can camp out and boondock on. And that was one of the places back there. And usually it's nice and quiet. Lots of times when I park on those places, I'm the only person there. But I'll go out a little bit further than that and park out in the middle of nowhere in a single spot. That just happened to be a bigger spot. That when I first got there was only 2 or 3 people there, and I thought, hey, this is great. But so now I'm heading down here to El Paso. I got about another hour to go. Passed through the Guadalupe Mountains just a while back. The wind is terrible out here too, and I just about 20 minutes ago passed an accident scene. A truck was blown over off the side of the road. The trailer was actually on its side, and the truck was still level. But I never ever record an accident. Somebody, in the middle of their misery, having the worst day of their life in the accident, and you have these YouTubers recording them. That's just low. And I've been there. I've actually a wreck a couple of years ago. I almost got hit head on. The guy behind me got hit head on, and he flipped over on top. The truck flipped over, and he was trapped inside the truck. And me and another guy, we were out in the middle of nowhere. I finally had to bust this guy's window out. We kind of pulled him out, but in the meantime, jackasses were passing with their phones out, videotaping us as they passed by. Not helping, just videotaping. Probably put it on YouTube somewhere. But I was so pissed off. You know, here, this guy could have been dead, and these jackasses were videotaping. So that's something I will never do. I'll never put somebody's accident on my channel anyway. But the winds were bad this morning. I slowed down to about 30, 40 miles an hour for a little ways coming through the mountains. But heading over to El Paso now. This week started out at the house. I started on Monday morning. I left the house about 9 or 10. I can't remember now. Picked up a load in Houston and had a heck of a time. Every once in a while you get these guys on the forklift who have no business being on a forklift, and this guy was just he was a soup sandwich. It took him almost 2 hours to get to me because he didn't have anything together, nothing ready. And when he finally did, we went back and forth for 20 minutes. Now, normally what I do is I'll ask to see what they're loading on the trailer so I can get an idea of where I want it put on the trailer for weight distribution purposes. And this would happen to be 4 toolbox, all the same size. And so I went in and looked. I saw, oh, this is going to be easy. And what I normally do is I'll take a bungee and I'll hang it off the trailer right where I want them to put the first piece. And that's what I did. This guy came out with the first toolbox, and I said, hey, see that bungee right there? Center this toolbox right up on that bungee. And he just could never get it. He put it on there first, and I said, hey, move it over about a foot to the right. Center it, you know, I want it centered right on that bungee. And he'd back up and he'd pull forward, and he'd be further over. And I wanted to tell him, hey, can I jump on that forklift? I was trying to be patient. I didn't know if he was new at it or what this guy's doing. There's always that one guy, there's passing lane, and he stayed right there on my bumper. But, you know, we went round and round for 20 minutes, and it finally got to the point where he got him on there, and the weight distribution was just about right. So I told him, you know, that's fine. Just give me my paperwork. I'm out of here. But I had a 4-foot gap in the middle, which, you know, these things are 5 feet tall, so they're going to catch enough wind at the front. And now I have this 4-foot gap in the middle where they're going to catch more wind. I wasn't happy about it, but I just wanted to get out of there. So delivered that in Memphis, and on the way I booked another load, and I only had to deadhead about 5 miles to pick up this other load. Fortunately, the guy loading this one, you guys can see in the back these empty tanks. I went over and looked at what he was going to load. I said, hey, I want this biggest tank in the front, these 2 smaller tanks, I want them sandwiched together in the middle, and with a single tank on the back. And he loaded it lickety split, and I was out there in about 20 minutes. And now we're headed to El Paso. El Paso, it's one of those places like Laredo, and most border towns. Man, that sun is really blinding through there. Didn't get it all. Now this guy's going to decide to pass when we're not in the passing lane anymore. Strange. All right, let's see if I can fix this. I guess not. We got it good enough. So El Paso is kind of a somewhat different. It's like Laredo or Eagle Pass or a lot of the border towns. Normally, when I'm delivering or picking up and I'm able to be there first thing in the morning, I'll get to places at 7 o'clock in the morning, get my business handled, and get out of there at a decent hour. for the most part, I cannot do that in Laredo or El Paso because people don't start at 7 o'clock in the morning there. Usually they get up and get real busy by about 9 a.m. So I timed it this morning where I would arrive probably about 8:30 or so. Load boards are kind of the same way. They're real fickle in these border towns. You'll have some days where you can pick any direction you want to go and get a halfway decent rate, and then there'll be some days where you wait 5 or 6 hours and there's not a single load drops on the board. Not sure the reason for it, but it's just, I don't know, it's a different way of doing business around the towns. I guess maybe has something to do with stuff coming across the border or something, I don't know. But anyway, when I left Carlsbad, it was 7 a.m. I think. Is that right? Yeah, 7 a.m. Mountain Time. I went about 15 miles and it went back to Central Time. So now it's 9 a.m. Central Time, and here in about 20 miles, it'll go back to Mountain Time. And so I'll be arriving just about the right time, hopefully. So got to get this headset on, get back on these low boards. Hopefully I have a signal. And today's just going to be one of those days where I'm going to be on the load board constantly with my fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. All right, now it's time to go to work. This is the only part that I consider work, really, is just being patient and sitting here and watching these load boards. I have my truck posted on a couple of load boards, just telling anybody out there, hey, I'm sitting here in El Paso. I'm ready to go. This is how much I can carry. This is the direction I want to go in. Occasionally that works. I get phone calls on it occasionally. But right now there's on the two main load boards that I use, there's only about 8 loads coming out of within a 375 mile range of El Paso. So looks like it's going to be one of those days. But this week so far, I've done okay this week so far. Turned a pretty good profit, so I can afford to sit here and wait most of the day. I'll be looking, in other areas that are, for stuff picking up tomorrow, that I can deadhead to pretty quick. And if something really good pops up that I can't pass up, I might deadhead. But right now I'm just trying to limit the deadhead, limit my expenses, and find something right here in El Paso. Going in any direction, really. I'm not picky today, so we'll see what we can get. There was one that I really wanted. It was coming from right here in El Paso, going to Las Vegas. I saw it on the load board for a few minutes. It disappeared, and then all of a sudden it popped back up. Similar load, El Paso to Henderson, Nevada. So I called on it. Sure enough, it was a foreign broker, and tried to negotiate with him to see, I wasn't going to take the load. I refused to work with those guys now. I checked his credit, and it wasn't, he didn't have any credit. And I said, so is this going to Henderson? He said, no, it's going to Las Vegas. And I said, aha, so you scalped another one. And so I just threw out a number. I quoted it for twice as much as I really would take it for. And he obviously said no, so I hung up the phone with him. But it's the waiting game now.